In 2017, Justice League sold $661 million worth of tickets worldwide. 600 million plus. A superhero team up. Batman and Wonder Woman on the same poster. And it still lost Warner Brothers an estimated $60 million. Read that again. Over $500 million in ticket sales. And the studio ended the run in the red. How does that happen? Once you see the machine behind it, you'll never read a box office headline the same way again. Here's what almost everyone gets wrong. When a headline says a film made $500 million, your brain quietly hears profit. It isn't profit. And it isn't the studio's revenue either. That number is every ticket sold in every cinema, in every country on earth. The studio only ever sees a slice, and the slice gets thinner the further the film travels. Once you understand the flow, you'll spot the quiet flops the headlines celebrate, and the modest films that quietly print money. And this decides real things. Which franchises get sequels, which directors get their next budget, and why studios have become so cautious. Start with the fundamental split. The fact this whole video hangs on. Average across the top 10 most profitable films of 2024, studios kept about 45% of the global box office, less than half. The rest stays with the theaters that sold the tickets. The studio's share even has its own industry name, the rental. And 45% is just the average. Domestically, studios negotiate roughly 50% in the opening weeks, and that share declines the longer the film stays on screens. Which is why studios push so hard for massive opening weekends. Cross an ocean, and the cut drops to 20 to 40% in most international markets. And in China, for years, the world's second biggest market, foreign studios receive just 25% of the gross. $100 million of Chinese ticket sales sends only about 25 million back to the studio. So the more global a blockbuster's gross looks, the smaller the studio's real share tends to be. Now feed a real film through that machine. Justice League grossed $661 million worldwide. Its production budget alone was an estimated $300 million, one of the most expensive films ever produced. Warner Brothers never confirmed the figure, but the reporting converged on that estimate. Deadline calculated the film's true break-even point. Production plus marketing plus distribution minus the theater's share at roughly $750 million. $750 just to get back to zero. The film finished at 661, about 90 million short. Deadline's final estimate, a net loss of $60 million. Every ticket, every market, one of the biggest superhero brands on the planet. And the studio would have been better off never making the film. If Justice League were a one-off, this would just be a Warner Brothers story. It isn't. In 2023, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Part 1. Tom Cruise hanging off a train, one of the best reviewed blockbusters of its year, grossed $571 million worldwide. But its gross budget had ballooned to an estimated $291 million. Variety estimated the film would lose Paramount around $100 million if it failed to cross $600 million worldwide. It didn't. Paramount even recovered $71 million through a COVID insurance payout and still finished underwater. Same year, an even starker case. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny cost $387 million all in. a figure straight from Disney's UK regulatory filings, and grossed 384. The tickets didn't even cover production before a single marketing dollar. Forbes put Disney's loss at around 130 million. Deadline went to 143. 3 tentpoles, 3 studios, 1 identical pattern. So assemble the full machine. Step 1. The studio spends the production budget for a modern tentpole, $200 to $300 million. Step 2. It spends again on P&A, prints and advertising, a global marketing campaign that can exceed 200 million on its own. Step 3. The film earns its worldwide gross, but the studio only collects the rental, roughly half at home, 20 to 40% abroad, a quarter in China. Stack those steps and you get the industry's brutal rule of thumb. A blockbuster needs about 2.5 times its production budget at the box office just to break even. A $300 million film needs $750 million in tickets before its first dollar of profit. The headline number was never the point. The multiple was. So here's how to read every box office headline from now on. 3 questions. What was the budget? What's 2.5 times that budget? That's the real finish line. And where did the gross come from? A China-heavy gross is worth 25 cents on the dollar to the studio versus 50 at home. One honest caveat. None of these loss figures are official. Studios almost never open their books. These are estimates from trade reporting, and different outlets land on different numbers. But the direction is never in dispute. The pattern is real and it is repeating. If you want the business behind the movies, not just the numbers, but what they actually mean, subscribe. There's a new breakdown every week.